Good morning guys, this is Naeem Aslam, Chief Market Analyst at AvaTrade. Today is the 14th of February and in our today's segment we're going to discuss put to call ratio, and I will be also discussing what is going to happen in the European markets and how that can really feed into the US markets. So let's begin with the most important sort of an analysis that we have done on the Asian markets. And I've looked at through on the options market because, as you know, options market could be very fruitful because you know how much money you are going to lose with respect to the unlimited upside that you are really thinking of that you're going to make. So when I look at the Asian markets today, you can clearly see that throughout this week there has been this huge influence, a really detrimental impact because of the coronavirus, and something which we discussed yesterday, the revised methodology by Chinese government, and that has really spiked those infection rate. And even as of today, I see that number is still ticking higher. Now that obviously has created very adverse mood over in Asia. Having said this, I think some investors do believe that, you know, we are gonna still, this particular sell-off is gonna be, or the slowdown in the global growth, or especially in China or in Asia, it's gonna be very much on the short term, and they believe that the market is near enough its bottom. Why? But this is why I looked at the options market. When I look at the put to call ratio, and just for clarity, you know, call is something call option is something when you will take a position, you believe the market is going to go higher, and convert on the other side, where you take a put option because you think that the market is going to go lower. So when we look at the ratio of this particular analysis, the number above 1 will really show that the market is going to go up. So the speculators are expecting that the bottom is in place, right? So put to call ratio right now sits at 2.5, sorry, it's just about 2.2 for Nikkei Index. So clearly Nikkei Index, which tracks the Japanese stocks, it really shows us that investors are believing that we are near enough a bottom, so market is going to really move to the upside. And I think it's really important as we finish this particular week, and then, you know, going into a Sunday, we know that the put to call ratio is giving us an indication that the market is really perhaps formed a bottom. That's what speculators are really thinking of, and it's very important information. Really, I cannot emphasize more with respect to the Asia, because if speculators believe that Asia is going to move higher, obviously, you know, the global market is also going to take higher. Having said this, always keep in mind that the data is still going to feed into this narrative, this sentiment going into next week. So things can change, and then, you know, the premiums that we see on put or call options going forward next week, it can obviously change because as the data is going to start hitting the tape. But for now, it looks like the speculators really believe that Nikkei Index is going to move higher. Now over in Asia, we all know that there's been extensive sell-off for euro, and I don't want it to go into too much because we put an article out today, FX special, so please do go and read that. It's really important. But when we look at it, you know, the German preliminary GDP numbers are expected to remain at 0.1%, and as long as the number doesn't really drop, then the forecast, I think euro could perhaps see some sort of life support. Otherwise, I think that sell-off, which is sitting at 2.25% month to date, is going to continue to the downside. I mean, that is just really going to get really worse, and then things can look even more ugly when we go forward from here today, leading into the US Open, because at 1:30 we have important US numbers coming out, and I'm not going to tell you what those numbers are because I want you to just write it right over here, what those numbers are. But what I can tell you, that those numbers are very much associated with consumer spending. Here is the clue for you, right? And that number is supposed to be coming a lot more weaker as compared to the previous reading as well. There's another clue for you guys. So if that happens, you know, if the forecast, if the actual number misses the forecast, then obviously we can see some sort of a weakness for the dollar index, and that means euro can start eventually, you know, forming some sort of base and start moving to the upside. That's all for today. Happy weekend and see you guys next week. Thank you.